You walk into your kitchen this morning, just like any other day. You open the cabinet, grab that little bulb of garlic, and toss it straight into the hot pan. The smell rises, the oil sizzles, and everything feels just right. It smells like home. It smells like health. But what if that exact moment, that simple, innocent gesture you have repeated for decades, is the moment you unknowingly cancel out the one thing that could be protecting your heart? What if the way you have always prepared garlic is silently robbing it of the only compound that actually lowers your blood pressure? And what if I told you that millions of Americans over 60 are doing this every single day, taking their medication faithfully, giving up the salt shaker, and still watching their numbers refuse to come down because of this one mistake no doctor ever bothered to mention? I recorded this video with a knot in my throat, because every single week in my practice, I sit across from at least 2 or 3 patients who are doing everything right, or so they believe. They are taking their medication. They gave up the salt shaker years ago. They are trying, and yet their blood pressure refuses to come down. After years of working with patients over 60, I have seen this pattern more times than I can count, and I made a promise to myself that I would find a way to reach more people with what I know. Because the information I'm about to share with you today is simple, it is free, and it works. And most people have never heard it from their doctor. In this video, I am going to show you 5 habits that are silently keeping your blood pressure high, even if you are already taking your medication. We will talk about the right way to prepare garlic, the hidden sodium that most people never suspect, and the number 1 mistake that I promise is going to surprise you. Most people expect a food, but it is not a food, and when I reveal it, you will understand why so many people struggle for years without ever finding the answer. Before we start, please share this video with someone you love, a spouse, a sibling, a dear friend who is dealing with high blood pressure. This information is free, and it could change everything for them. And remember, this video is informative and educational. It does not replace the guidance of your trusted doctor. Always keep your medical appointments. Are we good? Then let's get started. Now, before I show you those 5 mistakes, I need you to understand something fundamental. Because if you don't understand what is actually happening inside your body, none of the advice I am about to give you will stick. So stay with me for just a moment. Think of your arteries like the garden hose you have rolled up in the backyard. When that hose is new, it is flexible. It bends easily, and water flows through it smoothly, with no problem. But leave it out in the sun for years. Roll it up wrong a few too many times, never replace it, and what happens? It gets stiff, it gets brittle, and when you turn on the water, the pressure inside spikes, because the hose can no longer expand to accommodate the flow. That is exactly what happens to your blood vessels as the years go by. And when that pressure spikes day after day, week after week, it puts enormous strain on your heart, your kidneys, and your brain. Here is what makes this so serious. Your heart beats approximately 100,000 times every single day. 100,000 times. It never takes a break. Not when you sleep, not when you sit, not for a single second. And every one of those beats is pushing blood through miles, actual miles, of blood vessels. The American Heart Association tells us that uncontrolled high blood pressure is the leading cause of heart attack, stroke, and kidney failure in adults over 60, not one of the leading causes. The leading cause. And here is the number that stopped me cold the first time I read it. The CDC estimates that nearly 119 million Americans are living with high blood pressure right now. That is almost 1 in every 2 adults. And among people over 65, that number climbs to roughly 70%. 70%. That means if you are in a room with 10 people your age, 7 of them are dealing with this. And many of them do not even know it yet, because this condition gives no warning, no pain, no signal until the damage is already done. That is why what I'm about to show you matters so much. Mistake number 5. When you prepare garlic, do you throw it straight into the hot pan? Almost everyone does. But a meta-analysis published in BMC Cardiovascular Disorders found that correctly prepared garlic lowers systolic blood pressure by an average of 8 millimeters of mercury. And the key word is correctly. When garlic is crushed, two substances that were kept separate inside the clove finally meet and produce allicin, the compound that tells your arteries to relax and dilate. The problem is that heat destroys the active enzyme within seconds of hitting the pan, before the reaction even has a chance to begin. Think of it like striking a match underwater. It simply cannot ignite. The fix requires no money and no special equipment. Crush or finely mince your garlic. Let it rest on the cutting board for 10 full minutes and only then add it raw to your food or at the very last second of cooking. Margaret, 67, was a retired schoolteacher from Phoenix, Arizona. She had cooked with garlic her entire life and still could not stabilize her blood pressure on 2 medications. We changed nothing except those 10 minutes of resting time. 6 weeks later, her systolic pressure had dropped 11 points. I felt robbed, she told me. All those years, and nobody ever said a word. 1 to 2 crushed cloves a day. No cost, no special tools. Just 10 minutes of patience. But mistake number 4 will surprise you, especially if you are someone who already gave up the salt shaker, thinking the problem was solved. Mistake number 4, the hidden sodium. You stopped salting your food, and that took real discipline. But here is the part that nobody tells you, that salt shaker accounts for less than 30% of the sodium most Americans actually consume. The other 70% is buried inside store-bought bread, margarine, deli meats, bouillon cubes, crackers, packaged seasoning mixes, and canned soups, foods that millions of people eat every single day without a second thought. A study published in the Journal of the American Heart Association confirmed that ultra-processed foods are responsible for the majority of dietary sodium in older adults, and most of the people consuming them have no awareness of how much is going in. Dorothy was 71, a homemaker from Cleveland, Ohio. She used very little added salt, her diet was relatively balanced, and she genuinely could not understand why her readings stayed high. When we looked closely at what she was actually eating, the hidden sodium was enormous. Deli meats 3 days a week, bouillon in almost every pot. Over 12 weeks, she replaced those items with natural proteins and homemade broth, and she dropped 12 millimeters of mercury in systolic pressure. A result her family doctor documented and confirmed. What you should do starting today: read every nutrition label before it goes into your cart. Look for the word sodium. Anything above 500 milligrams per serving deserves a second thought. Replace packaged seasonings with fresh lemon juice, turmeric, black pepper, and oregano. They add real flavor and protect your arteries at the same time. But prepare yourself for the next one, because mistake number 3 is one that even people who are already on medication are still making every single day without realizing it. Mistake number 3, trusting your medication completely and changing nothing else. Now, I want to be absolutely clear before I say another word. Do not stop your medication. Never change your dosage without talking to your doctor first. But I need to tell you something I believe with everything I have learned in years of clinical practice. Medication controls blood pressure. It does not reverse the damage that is already building inside your arteries. It is like placing a patch over a leaking pipe without ever fixing the source of the pressure. The American Heart Association is explicit in its guidelines. Lifestyle changes are not optional additions to treatment. They are central to it. Every week in my practice, I sit across from patients on 2 or even 3 medications whose readings are still unstable because the habits fueling the problem were never addressed. The medication is fighting a battle the patient keeps feeding from the other side. Speak openly with your doctor. Ask whether your daily habits are supporting what the medication is trying to do. Treat it as a partnership, not a replacement. And now stay with me, because the next one is almost invisible and it is stiffening your arteries faster than almost anything you have put on your plate. Mistake number 2, not moving. I say this with every ounce of care and affection I have for you, my friend. But a sedentary lifestyle is one of the most powerful and least discussed drivers of high blood pressure in people over 60. When you move your body consistently, your arteries stay flexible, able to expand and contract with each heartbeat, the way a healthy garden hose bends without cracking. When you stop moving, day after day, those walls grow stiff and rigid. The CDC reports that fewer than 1 in 4 American adults meets the minimum recommended level of physical activity per week. For adults over 60, that number drops even lower. You do not need a gym membership. You do not need equipment. A 30-minute walk, 5 days a week, produces real and measurable reductions in blood pressure over the course of weeks. This is not opinion. This is documented in research from the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute. If 30 minutes feels like too much today, start with 10, then 15, then 20. The goal is movement, not perfection. Your heart is quietly asking you for this. Give it that gift. And now, stay right here with me, because what I'm about to reveal as the #1 mistake is something almost nobody in this audience will see coming. It is not a food, it is not a supplement, it is not anything on your plate. And once I tell you what it is, so many things are going to make sense that never made sense before. Before I move on to the next mistake, I want to stop for just a second and ask you something. Tell me in the comments where you are watching this from. Write your city down there. I genuinely love knowing where you all are. And if you are not yet subscribed to this channel, click that subscribe button right now and turn on the bell so you never miss what comes next. Now, let's keep going, because the next mistake is one that a lot of people are making, thinking they are actually helping themselves. And now we have arrived at #1. And this one, I will be honest with you, is going to surprise most people watching this video right now. Because I know what you are expecting. You are expecting a food, maybe sugar, maybe alcohol, maybe a specific ingredient you have been told to avoid. But it is none of those things. The #1 silent habit that is keeping blood pressure high in millions of Americans over 60 is chronic stress combined with sleep deprivation. And almost nobody connects those two things to their blood pressure readings. I know what you might be thinking. You might be thinking that stress is just part of life, that everyone is stressed, that you have always been this way and you turned out fine. But here is what the science actually shows. A landmark study published in the European Heart Journal, following more than 100,000 participants across multiple countries, found that people experiencing chronic psychological stress and sleeping fewer than 6 hours per night had a significantly higher risk of developing resistant hypertension, the kind that does not respond well even to medication. Not just higher blood pressure, resistant hypertension, the kind that fights back. Here is why this happens inside your body. Think of your nervous system like a dimmer switch on a lamp. In a healthy, rested body, that switch moves up and down throughout the day, alert when you need to be, calm when you need to rest. But chronic stress and poor sleep keep that switch jammed at full brightness, 24 hours a day. When your body is in that state of constant alertness, it releases cortisol and adrenaline, hormones that tell your heart to beat faster and tell your blood vessels to constrict, to squeeze tighter. Your arteries tighten, the pressure climbs, and unlike the salt you can put down or the garlic you can prepare differently, this switch does not turn off just because you want it to. Robert was 63 years old, a retired store owner from Memphis, Tennessee. He had been taking blood pressure medication for 6 years. He had read about garlic online and was crushing it with lemon juice every morning, but blending it immediately with warm water, which destroyed the allicin before the reaction could even begin. But here is the part that mattered most. Robert was sleeping no more than 4 or 5 hours a night. He watched television until midnight, woke up at 3 in the morning with his mind racing, and spent the next hour lying there thinking about his children, his finances, things that happened years ago. He never once connected his sleep to his blood pressure. He thought that was just who he was. When we addressed both, correcting the garlic preparation and building a true wind-down routine before bed, his systolic pressure dropped 14 points in 8 weeks. 14 points. His cardiologist reduced one of his medications. "I thought I just had bad genes," he told me. Nobody ever asked me how I was sleeping. If you recognize yourself in Robert's story, here is what I want you to do starting tonight. Set a consistent bedtime, ideally between 9 and 10 in the evening, and protect it the way you protect a doctor's appointment. Turn off the television 30 minutes before you lie down. Keep the room cool and dark. And if stress is the root of what keeps you awake, speak with your doctor about strategies, whether that is a walking habit, breathing exercises, or even a conversation with someone you trust. Your blood pressure is not just a number on a machine. It is a message from your body about how it is feeling on the inside. Now, before I give you the action plan, I need you to pay very close attention to what I am about to say. Because high blood pressure almost never announces itself. But sometimes the body does leave clues, and if you know what to look for, you can catch them before the damage goes any further. So listen carefully and ask yourself honestly, do you wake up with a headache at the back of your head almost every morning that fades within an hour or two of getting up? Do you ever feel a buzzing or ringing in your ears that has no clear cause? Do your eyes occasionally blur at the edges, or do you see flashes of light when you stand up too fast? Do you feel your heart beating harder than usual, even when you are completely still and resting? Do you have shortness of breath doing things that used to be easy? Climbing a short flight of stairs, walking from the car to the front door? Do your ankles or feet swell by the end of the day, especially after sitting or standing for a few hours? Do you feel persistent pressure or heaviness at the base of your skull, a kind of tension that never fully goes away? If you recognize yourself in any of these, even just one or two of them, I want you to speak with your doctor as soon as possible. Ask specifically for a blood pressure check, a complete metabolic panel that includes creatinine to evaluate how your kidneys are filtering, a fasting glucose and hemoglobin A1C to screen for diabetes, which dramatically worsens hypertension. And if your sleep is disrupted, ask about a sleep study called a polysomnography to rule out sleep apnea, which is one of the most underdiagnosed causes of resistant high blood pressure in adults over 60. These are not exotic tests. They are standard, accessible, and in many cases covered by Medicare and public health programs. Knowledge is the first step toward protection. So let me give you a clear plan, something you can start today without spending a single dollar and without waiting for your next doctor's appointment. First, crush your garlic. Not chop, not slice, not throw it whole into the pan. Crush it. Then wait 10 full minutes before you use it. That is all it takes to activate the compound that tells your arteries to relax. 1 to 2 cloves a day. Make it a habit. Second, read every nutrition label before that product goes into your cart. Look for the word sodium. If a single serving contains more than 500 milligrams, think twice. Hidden sodium is one of the biggest reasons blood pressure stays high, even in people who already gave up the salt shaker. Third, swap out processed seasonings for fresh ones. Lemon juice, turmeric, oregano, black pepper. Real flavor, real protection. Fourth, move your body for at least 30 minutes, 5 days a week. A walk around the block counts. Your arteries need movement to stay flexible and strong. Fifth, protect your sleep. Set a consistent bedtime. Turn off the television 30 minutes before you lie down. Your nervous system needs that rest to stop flooding your bloodstream with the hormones that keep your pressure elevated. Sixth, talk to your doctor. Ask for a full blood pressure evaluation, a metabolic panel, a fasting glucose, and if your sleep is poor, ask about a sleep study. These exams are accessible, and many are covered by Medicare. Preventive care saves lives, and the best time to start is always today. A study published in The Lancet found that high blood pressure is responsible for over 10 million deaths worldwide every single year, more than any other cardiovascular risk factor on the planet. 10 million lives, most of them preventable. Your blood pressure is not a lottery. It is not something written in your genes that you simply have to accept and endure. It is the result of the small choices you make every single day. In your kitchen, in your bedroom, in the way you treat your body and your rest. And you being here today, watching until this very last moment, tells me everything I need to know about you. You care. You are fighting for your own health. And that, my friend, is already an enormous step in the right direction. Now, please do not keep this to yourself. Send this video to your spouse. Send it to that friend who has been on blood pressure medication for years and still can't get their numbers under control. Send it to that family member who reaches for the salt shaker at every meal without thinking twice. This information is free, and it just might be the turning point someone you love has been waiting for without even knowing it. And in our next video, I'm going to reveal something that surprises almost every patient I share it with. A silent condition that affects millions of Americans over 60 and is almost never diagnosed in time. You will not want to miss it. Take very good care of yourself. Always keep your appointments with your trusted doctor. May God bless you and give you many more years of health, joy, and the energy to keep up with everyone you love. See you in the next video.